I'll tell you a story of a friend of mine who had aspirations to run for office. And I said, well, what's holding you back? And he was like, well, because I might run and lose. And my immediate response to him was, well, don't be ridiculous. Of course you're going to lose.
Oh.
It's your first time out, you're self-financing it. Here's what I think you will gain. You're even going to test the question around whether or not you really, really want it. And so he ran, and he lost, and he ran again, and then he won.
Big change doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it starts with a single step. That's why I'm excited to host leaders, innovators, great thinkers, and everyday people sharing their stories and practical insights you can use right now. Wherever you are in your journey, whether you're just starting out, looking to make a pivot, or ready to reinvent yourself, you'll find both information and inspiration right here. This is Giant Steps, and I'm Leilani Brown.
So Leilani, first I just want to start off and say congratulations on 4 years of Giant Steps. Honestly, I know you're super excited, and from what I've just seen, you guys truly have accomplished just so much. I know right now you guys are in your season 3 of the podcast, and it was first launched as your first job, and you guys had an incredible list of guests come on and just share how they landed their first job, like their tips for success, and just how they really built success on their own terms. And so I noticed that you have done a little bit of a relaunch of the name. And so I want to know, what was the inspiration behind changing the name to Giant Steps with Leilani Brown from your first job podcast? And then the second question I have is just, where do we go from here? Where do you see Giant Steps in the future from here?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, because it's hard to believe that it's been 4 years since you started the company, and also 2 seasons of Your First Job, our podcast. And we're excited. And we're taking all the kudos. So thank you.
You are more than welcome.
Yeah, when we first launched the podcast, when we first launched Your First Job, its first iteration, I really wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to offer information and inspiration about career. And the goal was also to demystify this first big career move that people often make. And we wanted to hear the stories that were real stories and practical stories, and not necessarily the stories that seem to be microwave success or overnight success. I thought it would be helpful to people to talk about the missteps, the mentors, the moments, the different things that made it possible. And it has resonated. We're hearing from people that those conversations were important and will continue to be important and part of our show. But over time, I think the conversations have expanded. And we're not even talking only about how people first land their first job, or what they did in their first job, or how they've grown from it. We're exploring different topics and trying to meet the moment in our own way, whether they be reinvention and moving into a different field, resilience and bouncing back after a loss or a job change, redefinition and rediscovery around what's important to you, or all kinds of pivots. We wanted to really expand the what it really meant to think about career and being on a career journey, if you will.
Right.
And we decided to rename the show Giant Steps. That's obviously the name of the company, because that's really what we're talking about.
Right.
Every step that we make, even some of the giant ones, are not necessarily the oldest moves. They're sometimes the quiet decisions or the different moments that mark a new chapter. So we wanted to talk about it in that way. We also really wanted to meet the moment that we're in, though, and I don't want to lose sight of that. Right now, everyone is facing a more complex and more dynamic work environment, and it's certainly much more unpredictable than it was ever before. We are experiencing mass layoffs across every single sector. Identity shifts, and we can certainly talk about how people feel about themselves relative to work and vocation, economic uncertainty, political uncertainty, and people just really trying to find their way. This most recent class, the class of 2025, is coming into a very unpredictable job market. And so with all of that, we wanted to make sure that we were providing information that continues to be useful, is inspirational, but also provides really concrete, specific information that people could use. So we hope to provide real insight from real people, whether they're leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs, or everyday people that are really just trying to figure it out. And we're going to figure it out together.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And I know so many people are going to be looking forward to that and seeing all the things that Giant Steps, is going to accomplish and share with people in the upcoming months and for the future. Just if this is anybody's like first time listening or watching them, where can they find you? What platforms are you on so that they know?
Absolutely. So we do provide the podcast, and our previous seasons will still be available on YouTube at Giant Steps LLC. That's our YouTube channel. And we also upload podcast episodes on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Audible, and Amazon Music.
So basically what she's saying is they're everywhere. You'll be able
to listen to your podcast in addition to YouTube. And we'd appreciate it if you listen, if you share the show, and share our information widely and broadly. I think the most important lesson that I relearned and that people should take away from the first 2 seasons of the podcast is that careers are not linear. They're not a straight line. And they're going to have peaks, valleys. They're going to meander. They're going to curve. They're going to throw you some curveballs. You're going to learn some things about yourself, about other people, about work, about workforce. And you're going to have some surprises. And some of them are going to delight you, and some of them are going to frighten and paralyze you.
Absolutely.
But careers are long.
Right.
Your working life for most of us is 30 to 40 years. About the time from 20 to 60, that's 40. That's a 40-year span. So for it to be predictable, easy, manageable, with no bumps in the road, that's impossible.
Right.
I think when you're first starting out, and certainly for people like me who had a tendency to plan and over-engineer your life,
right.
You don't allow for serendipity. No matter who you are and no matter what you believe, you could potentially wake up at a point in your career and say, I can understand or appreciate why that happened, when it happened, the way it happened, because it put me in a position to contribute in this way. When you're losing a job, there is a risk that you feel like you're only feeling the loss and you're not feeling the opportunity. I've just not wanted to live a just fine life. And I think really everyone doesn't want to live a just fine life. I think what holds a lot of us back from living a great life, a giant life, is fear that it won't happen. And we kind of like manage our expectations and set our expectations
absolutely
really, really low, because we have a greater fear of being disappointed or it not working out. But sometimes things cannot work out in a beautiful way. That's why I speak very plainly about applying to 8 law schools and not getting into one. That wasn't in my plan, and it felt really bad. It was really bad in the moment. And I can tell you now, 35 years later, it's the best thing that never happened to me.
Never happened.
I wasn't supposed to go to law school.
Right.
I was supposed to be where I am and hire lawyers to do the lawyering. We're thinking about culture and strategy and people and organization.
Just growing up, I'll just say as a millennial, just growing up, we are taught to do the safe route, the safe traditional route. And I think it's interesting because the younger generations are like, we're not doing that anymore, because I think people, they're watching their parents, they're watching their grandparents, and it's like they lived a good, decent life, but they weren't really fulfilled.
For sure.
So my question to you is, what do you think it takes for someone to reach that point of fulfillment where they know, like, this is where I'm meant to be?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have no choice but to keep going. I mean, you could stop, right?
Right.
Right? I'll tell you a story of a friend of mine who had aspirations to run for office in their local area in town. I've told the story before, and he wanted to run for the first time and be elected to local office. And I said, well, what's holding you back? And he was like, well, because I might run and lose. And my immediate response to him was, well, don't be ridiculous. Of course you're going to lose.
Oh, I feel like that probably caught him off guard.
What? Yes. Of course you're going to lose. It's your first time out. You're self-financing it. You are, an unknown entity. Political machines are what they are.
Right. That's
but
true.
Here's what I think you will gain. First, you'll establish yourself as a formidable candidate. Second, you're going to learn so much more about running the process and yourself. And you're even going to test the question around whether or not you really, really want it.
Yes.
Right? You're also, because you're going to have a new platform, going to have the ability to drive the agenda.
Right.
In a way that you wouldn't if you sat on the sidelines, or worse, which you're finding now, people, sort of discussing it in social media, because that's not really doing anything, right? But you're going to be able to set the pace for a conversation and a new conversation. You're going to introduce things that have to be discussed now in the campaign. And so he ran, and he lost.
And he lost.
And he ran again, and then he won.
Wow.
And so the story is, there's no overnight success. It's not easy.
Yes.
But just because things aren't easy doesn't mean we shouldn't try.
I didn't even think about the part of having his family watch him try. Right. I think that's a really important part, because I'm just thinking, like, me seeing my parents do some of the things they did are the reasons I felt like I was able to do them. And I think that's a really important part. And
why not you?
Right.
Why can't you be the next, local, congressperson, or Senate run, or entrepreneur, or business person, or why not you?
Right.
If it's possible for anybody else, why not you? It makes me think about some advice that I give people who are in their job searches. And I tell them, don't turn down a job that hasn't been offered to you yet. Oh, I'm not going to offer that job because I'm never going to get it. It hasn't been offered to you yet. They'll say, well, I'm not going to apply because they're never going to give it to me, or they're looking for all of these things. And, I don't have these particular qualifications, or I don't want to be disappointed. So I'm not going to get my hopes up.
Right.
I'm not going to get my hopes up. Absolutely. And that becomes a mindset where you actually maybe don't even try as hard. You fail. Right? You sort of like, don't put your best foot forward because you're afraid that you're not going to get it. But if you don't put your best foot forward, there's a reason why. I wasn't feeling well that day. I wasn't really prepared.
Yes.
Actually run the risk and be vulnerable in a way that says, I did my best. I left it all on the floor and I didn't get it. Yes. So to me, I'm the type of person that I want to leave it all out there. I want to do my best. And if I don't get it, at least I know I did my best. But there's something happening where people are starting to manage their expectations, I think, to their own detriment.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree with that. I really I love what you said about hope, because right now I just feel like in the job market, with the economy and everything else going on, like, people are really starting to lose hope. And I just believe personally that when people lose hope, it becomes dangerous, because it's hard to get out of that, and it's hard to come back from that. And so for people who have been like, facing unextended employment, it's been longer than 6 months, it's been a year, it's been a year and a half, and they've lost hope, and they have people still saying, network, keep applying, don't give up. But there gets a point in time where you kind of get sick of that, and you're like, I've been doing everything you've asked me to do, and I'm still not getting the results I want. So what would you say to people who are in that mindset right now, who feel like people outside, because they're not going through it, they're not understanding it, they've lost all hope, and they really don't see how they're going to be able to pull themselves out of that because they've been trying to for so long?
The first chapter in your Next Giant Reset is entitled Gathering Yourself, or Gather Yourself. It's a 4-part framework, but the gather yourself is so important. Within it, I offer a couple of instructions that I think are really important to do, but I think people skip through them because they're just immediately going right into the job search, right?
Right.
One is to really document what your accomplishments were at your last job. I think that's really, really important because you take advantage of the recency of the experience. Writing it down can give you a boost of confidence. You may realize that irrespective of the job loss, you actually accomplished some great things, and you're a little bit more of a badass than you thought.
Right.
I think that's really important.
Yes.
Staying in touch with who matters and who really should be in your network, and being discerning about that so that you're not around a group of negative people. Talk about the importance of building community in a moment, but I'm just thinking about the things that I think are really important in that gathering yourself stage.
Yes.
And then also seeking, if you can, if you're able, professional help from a licensed mental health therapist or clinician. And if that's necessary, you should do that. A group and a community of people is not going to replace help from a licensed mental health professional. Okay, so if you need that, that's important, because feeling stuck, feeling upset, having low mood is different than clinical depression.
Yes,
and that should be handled appropriately.
Absolutely.
I think that for those people, so those things are important, but I'd say that finding community and building community during this time with like-minded people who are pursuing their job search in the same way or similar ways can be very, very helpful.
Yes.
It need not be industry specific, but it should be a group of people who share the same approach, the same energy around it, and you can encourage each other and also be accountability partners.
Absolutely.
I think that can be very, very helpful. Yes. And need not cost you. And you can come up with a structure for how you help each other and learn from each other. I think that that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Here's something that's not in the book, but should be considered. If you've been out of work for 6 months to a year,
yes,
I think you have to take a long, hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, have I been doing job search activities? Have I been conducting and deploying job search activities with structure and consistency over the past 6 months or a year? And be honest with yourself about it. So let's say I lost my job January 1st. I'm talking to you now in September.
Okay.
And my contracted paid employment ended March 30th. Easter comes around. Spring break comes around. I need a break. I'm pissed. I'm mad. I'm going to look at my resume. May 1st. Okay. I put up a few posts on LinkedIn. I applied. I'm staying in touch, and I'm gossiping with the people who are left and are also on their way out the door. It's June 1st. I still don't have a job. It's You know, it's the middle of June. I have children. They're in
Mm.
school. I'm picking them up. I'm going to all the end of the year activities. Still don't have a job. It's July 1st. It's the 4th of July. I'm going to Costco in the middle of the day. I'm waking up in my pajamas. This freedom feels really good. This elastic waistband is stretching to the greatest extent. I'm watching the Food Channel. It's August 15th. I still don't have a job. I just booked my tickets to go to the ferry. Employment's coming in. The salary continuation is coming in. It's September. Well, nobody's really in the offices this summer.
Mm.
You know, no one's responding because they're on vacation. It's September, and I still don't have a job. Okay. And, you know, October is coming, and I feel like the year really sort of stops in November because you've got the holidays and people start to look toward the first quarter.
Right.
Okay. And then you look up and life has lifed and happened. And you're saying to yourself, I still don't have a job.
Yes.
The honest, vulnerable moment when you're sitting still with yourself that you should ask yourself, have I really approached my job search with structure and rigor?
Mm.
Have I left it all on the field? I'm no sports person, so when I start using sports analogies, not really that great. Have I put my best effort out there?
Out there, yes.
And then, to me, you have a right to complain.
Mm.
But if that was your year from January 1st, by the way, like no one loses their job on March 30th and they don't have a hint of it on January 1st or 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
It's always coming. You sort of like or see. There are some people who are totally caught off guard.
Right.
You just assume that you've had the lead up time, the actual loss, or whatever it is. But really ask yourself, have I approached my job search with structure and rigor and with a framework and done my best? And I think for some people, the answer is going to be yes. And
right.
They're going to be frustrated, right?
Right.
But they planted a lot of seeds and it could be right around the corner of the next seed being planted, right? But for some people, I think we need to have an honest telling to ourselves. If you don't want to tell anybody else, that's fine.
That's fine, right?
Put yourself in the mirror and just say, what has my job search looked like? If I had to replay my job search for the last 6 months or a year for the long-term unemployed, would I be proud of the efforts? And the efforts are not applying only online. The efforts are not just sending, doing it, intermittently. The efforts are not like, oh, I need to work on my resume. Right? So there's the structure and approach. And the book, again, not trying to, over promote the book, but I really believe in this framework. It gives you structure on how to approach it so that you can look back at your work effort and say, these are the things that I'm doing. So here's how I have to modify it. You may have to modify it. Right? I think there's an honest telling to yourself, a reckoning, around have I done my best?
Right.
Not blame people, and I'm not here to shame people at all. But I think in many cases, what we think we're doing around job searching is not actually job searching. It's not strategic and structured around job searching.
One of the things that I found very interesting in your book earlier, you spoke about when you're using sports terminology, but in your book, you use a lot of
marketing. I do it.
But in your book, you use a lot of marketing lingo. And as somebody who's in marketing myself, it really resonated me. Specifically, your phase 3, you talk about go to market. And so one of the things that I loved is it really broke it down and made it easy for people to understand. And so I'm just curious, what is it about the marketing lingo that just resonated with you and made you want to break things down, especially phase 3, using that lingo and terminology?
Yeah, I mean, I have not only been in this business. Before starting Giant Steps, I was a career executive focused on marketing, branding, and strategy and communication. So it's quite a natural language and framework for me to talk about a lot of different things. If you talk to a marketer, everything is marketing communication. Right?
That's so true, right?
So it's part of my professional DNA. So it's a natural discussion. But I also do think, I feel very strongly that we are the product. When someone's hiring you, they're making a purchase, a selection of a product. You as a person, what can you do for me? A service or whatever it is. When you are buying or deciding to do business with a company, you're deciding on the people. And I think that putting a marketing framework is a useful framework for job searchers to start to think of themselves differently. Preparing the product, your profile, how you talk about you as an employee, as a contributor, a potential contributor, your experience, what your results were, the impact that you had. Really packaging that in a way that's meaningful, that will give a potential employer a reason to believe, another marketing turn of phrase, and a compelling reason to act, another marketing turn of phrase. It's very important.
Right.
Or to think about it that way. Also, another marketing phrase, you don't want to pray and spray, right? And just see who responds to the thousands of applications that you make online. And again, that's not job searching.
Right.
But what you really want to do is super serve your niche, really deliver specifically and in a targeted way what is best about you to the market that's looking for your special and unique and differentiated skill. Unique selling proposition or value proposition that you can offer to those targeted employers. I'd say there's a persistence there. There's a stick-to-itness. Stick-to-itiveness. Brooke writes, talked about this on Your First Job on the podcast in the first season, maybe the second season. And, part of this is like, how can you stay in it? Can you get to the next level in the tournament?
Yes.
You almost have to gamify. Like I can stick. I can stick to a lot. No one's looking for perfection,
right?
And part of life is just sticking it out. Like, can you be resilient? Because it's hard. The job market is hard, but people are going to be working. One other thing that I would think is important, I think now, there's such a deluge of information, a lot of it negative, about the prospects in the job market and the jobs reports and everything. You must place a filter on it. Things that I often think of is that, it's really, really hard. But I only need one job. Or that doesn't apply to me. It's really tough out there. That doesn't apply to me. I mean, for me, I started my business. Yes, I understand that there are going to be people out there that stop doing business for themselves after a year or 2 years. That doesn't apply to me.
Right. What you brought up so many good points. And one of the things, especially going back to what you said about you being the product, but then also how you just said in terms of there's so much, negative information out there and like filtering that out. One of the things that I find that I've seen on social media, there's so much shame attached to a person, even though they know they're the product, they need to pitch themselves. What I've seen, especially I'll say with older generations, Gen Xers and baby boomers, they go from having like top level positions, right? And for 20 to 30 years, and then, they get laid off. And then it's kind of hard for them to put themselves out there. It's almost where it's at the worst that they decide to really say something and just put that out there. What would you say to people struggling with just the shame aspect and truly being vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to lose sight of this idea that, entrepreneurship is not the safety hatch that a lot of people think that it is. And entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And there's something that I learned relatively early in my career, and I'm glad that I learned it, and I continue to relearn it and share it. And that is your job and your career and your role and your title and your position is not who you are, but it just is what you do.
Mm.
It's an exchange of labor for wage. And that's one of the helpful ways I think that to think about it. So that's one. And I say that because if you allow a job or a career or a title or a position or your role at a particular company to make you feel important, then it also has the power for you to feel unimportant.
Mm.
If you allow it to make you have an inflated sense of worth or value,
Right.
all valuable, then you also, the removal of it has the power to make you feel less valuable.
Yes.
So let's just start there and encourage people to think about that work and what we do from a vocation perspective as just that,
As just that. Right.
not part of our identity and how we should feel about ourselves. You know, one of the ways that this presents for us is the pressure around reunions, college reunions, high school reunions,
Mm.
notion of where we are supposed to be,
Right.
anchored in what people thought we were supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Or another way is our parents taking such pride in what we are doing or what we've accomplished.
Yes.
My daughter, the doctor, my
Yes.
son,
Right.
that puts us in a position where we are hesitant to pursue things
Yes.
that are different,
Right.
or embarrassed when we can't deliver those bragging rights.
Mm.
And sometimes that devolves into this idea of shame, because what we are doing in those instances, we are allowing external factors, external no control factors,
Right.
to impact how we feel about a job loss
Plus.
or making a different kind of decision. So when we have allowed the economy, a decision to change the size of an organization, to move strategically in another direction,
Mm.
to take on a personal, individual, and emotional identity within us. We start to internalize that I am no longer employed because I don't have value to that company, so I have no value.
Mm.
And that's not true. When in fact, they might have wanted to hire their cousin. They may have made a miscalculation and they don't have the revenue to support the staffing of that old model, or their staffing model is wrong, or they've determined that they can use artificial intelligence to increase productivity at a lesser cost.
Yes.
Those are not identity issues.
Right.
That has nothing to do with you.
With you. Mm.
It does have an impact on you.
Right.
Those things together can create, I think, an unearned shame. And shame can be paralyzing.
Yes.
And can cause you to shut down, not communicate, seek help, be in a lesser position to receive help, be isolating, and can prevent forward, momentum and movement and pace and growth. Shame can prevent you from cultivating friendship, being honest about where you are, and that isolation can be damning.
I just find it really, really, really heartbreaking because, like I said, I think everything you said with the shame toppled on with everything's going on in terms of the economy and things like that. I think it's really making people just kind of, like I said, just give up and just really just kind of like crash out almost and just think there's no way it's going to get better. And one of the things that really resonated with me in your book is when you talk about how you tie the job loss to the 7 stages of grief and just really kind of unpacking that and really understanding like how you can eventually move on, because like you said, if you don't, it is paralyzing. So that makes me curious to know, like, what would you say to companies and corporations, like, in response to all these people being upset with them because essentially they feel like you guys are lowballing us, you guys are laying off, not caring. The people at the top leadership, they're always safe and taken care of.
Yeah. I'd say to the companies, do better. This is not a way to get the best out of talent and people. It's not a way to become a destination employer of choice. If you want less transaction in terms of the employee joining the organization, then treat the hiring and onboarding process as less of a transaction and more of an employee engagement effort, cultivation effort, and community building effort.
Yeah.
If you want to build a team, a high-performing team, you have to treat people as valued employees and members of the team. Believe me, there are companies out there that do it well. I'm not going to put them out, but I actually know a few of them that do it really, really well and quite intentional about how they recruit and how they talk to people and how they bring them on board. But for those who are not doing a good job of it, do better. Or not, your results are going to show.
Absolutely.
Your results are going to show. I think it will play out. The story will be told that those who are intentional about how they recruit, onboard, engage, and cultivate talent, it's going to show in their profitability and their results and their company longevity and the allegiance that people have. I don't believe that folks want to move around that much.
Right.
They want I think tenures are shorter, but I don't think they want to bounce around.
They want to bounce around, right? If you had to choose one word to just kind of motivate and inspire people to like go ahead and push themselves towards that career comeback, what word would you choose?
I would say courage. And courage is not about the absence of fear, but it is about moving forward in the face of fear. If I had to pick a second word and you allowed me to do so,
yes.
It would be hope. So courage and hope. I would just want people to have a bit of courage to move forward despite what's seemingly hard, and some hope that there can be, a brighter future on the other side of it. And that they will be okay, and then they just might be great.
And I feel like it goes perfectly with taking that giant step, because it takes courage to take that giant step.
It does, and it's indeed possible.
Yes.
You've already survived every bad day that you're going to have.
I really am so excited and looking forward to all the things that Giant Step is going to do. I'm so excited about Giant Steps with Leilani Brown. It's season 3. And one of the things I want to let the audience know is that you will be able to send in questions. So if there's something that you're going through or you just have a question about or need any advice, please, please, please feel free to go to the comments and YouTube, drop your questions. For future episodes, we will have our beautiful, gracious host, Leilani, answering those for you guys. Stick around. It's going to be great. We're super excited of what's to come. And again, I just want to thank you so much, Leilani. This was fabulous. This was fantastic.
Jira, and welcome to Giant Steps LLC. We are just delighted to have you as part of our team. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And remember, everybody, as always, do well, do good. Stay tuned for our next episode.
Thank you.
This podcast is a production of Giant Steps LLC, a company working at the intersection of strategy, culture, career, and education. I'm Leilani Brown, CEO and host of the show. Many thanks to Jaira Michael, our executive producer, and S. Maxwell Brown, producer and editor of this episode. You can learn more about our company at giantstepsllc.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode and others. Please be sure to follow, like, and share our show far and wide. Thank you for listening.